Om Sadashiva Samarambam Shankaracharya Madhyamam Asmadacharya Paryantam Vande Guru Param Ishvaro Guratmeti Murti Veda Vibhagine Vyomabda Vyopta Dehaya Dakshinamurtaye Namaha Sava Vedanta Sedanta Gocharam Tamagocharam Govindam Paramanandam Satguru Pranatoshmaham Om Shanti 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 Om Namaste. Welcome. Panchadasi, chapter 6. Take a look here. We have seen the sloka 27. We saw those two kinds of ignorance, a very quick recap so that we refresh our memory. We have an ignorant person who does not know the conscious aspect of the human experience. Let's say Kutastha. Kutastha is a living being, okay? And it is conscious being, and it's conscious being because its nature is consciousness. The ignorant person does not know Kutastha. I'm just going quickly through page 410. The ignorant person does not know Kutastha, which is the consciousness without which the Jiva Atma is not an entity, an experiencing entity. Kutastha Chaitanya. The ignorance which is there all the time is called Mula Vidya. There is an ignorance that is eternal, it's beginningless, it's all the time, it's referred to as Mula Vidya. Even though ignorance is there with this person all the time, he does not know he or she is ignorance, okay? He does not know ignorance at all. So most samsaris do not know that there is such a thing as consciousness, as one true nature, and being fully ignorant, that full ignorance is referred to avidya, okay? Not only he is ignorant, but he does not know of his ignorance. The ignorance is not involved. The ignorance never came to the surface at any time. When the ignorance is invoked, when he comes in contact with Sayani or with the scriptures, and then the question comes, the Anyani is asked, do you know that you are consciousness? And are you aware that you are suffering of Mula Vidya? That you are, when it's brought to sin, when it's brought to surface, and then that ignorance changes, and it begins being referred as avarana, okay? So it is, you are fully ignorant and you are not aware that you are ignorant. You deny the possibility of ignorance. You deny as an experience because you feel, I don't know and I don't experience, and you deny the experience and the cognition, intellectual, you deny, and there is an experience, you deny the existence because you deny the experience, because you are seeing consciousness as something other than yourself that can be seen objectively and experienced objectively. So this misunderstanding brings about this full avidya, this mula vidya, this original avidya, which is here referred as avidya or mula vidya. So suppose a wise man asks, suppose a yani asks Anyani, do you know Kutastha Chaitanya? Do you know consciousness? Do you know consciousness? The person asked will be in trouble, because in his mind he thinks that the question is asked, and when he thinks, two things happen. At the mental level, he thinks that there is no such a thing as consciousness, as Kutastha. The human experience of consciousness as one's true identity. And he in his mental, in his mind, he will deny, and he will deny because he says, I have never experienced this Kutastha. Yeah? Therefore, there is no existence of Kutastha at all. So this did not happen when he was doing his work. The Avarana Shakti is activated. So, and then when this is avidya, the Mula Vidya, the beginning lines of Vidya, the Avarana Shakti is activated only when the Yoni asks a question and the thought it comes to the mind, So the person is standing there, the Yoni talks to him about this, and then the thought, the potential, the possibility of consciousness as something existing, let alone something that can be experienced, not objectively. So that thought is what is going to bring about the Avarana Shakti, okay? Then he uses Tatvabana Nizeda, Bhavya also. So the generation of this vritti, this vritti, I don't see, and I'm not experienced, but if you say that there is such a thing, I'm going to investigate, this generation, this is activated only when a wise man brings to the attention of the Anyani that there is such a possibility. Before the Yoni brings that to the attention of the Anyani, so this thought about consciousness, Kutastha Chaitanya, was never there in one's mind. Now it came into one's mind. There is such a thing as consciousness. It's like us traveling, journeying through the spiritual world, and then we hear that there is such a thing as consciousness, and consciousness is the only reality. And once knowing that, you want to be happy, and there is nothing other than consciousness. So we hear those things, and then we say, oh, it does not make sense. But now, before I was totally ignorant about this concept. Now I'm aware of this concept, and I'm going to search for, investigate, or do some work around this concept. So, and then we have a different kind of ignorance, because that vritti, which was transferred from the Yoni to Anyani, will activate this ignorance that before it was unconscious. Now it's a conscious ignorance, and it's an ignorance like I don't experience, I believe it does not exist, but now I consider that there is an ignorance operating in my mind. This power, this new vritti that's going to bring to the surface or activate this Mula Vidya is called Avarana Shakti. Then after the generation of this thought, the expression, the verbal, the thought, and then one will begin searching for it, in the books, in the teachings, talking, and he verbally now, the individual, the Anyani, verbally now, not only mentally, but verbally, he starts expressing his or her ignorance. He starts verbally and thinking there is an ignorance operating here, and this ignorance operating is called Avarana, and the expression is called Avarana Shakti. So you become aware of this ignorance. You become aware that they say there is such a thing as Kutastha Chaitanya, and now I think about that, and then I start talking about that. And that's when this avidya is activated to turn to be called Avarana Shakti, which is also eternal, which is an avidya, it's a mula vidya. Then he will raise a possible objection. And then it says, then we will have here a possible objection in the next class. Vidyaranya explains the Varana version. Now he says that concealing version of a vidya is in the form of thought and verbal expression. I'm passing quickly for Claude. Claude, most probably you did not have time to revise, to watch to those classes, right? Or you did? Okay. So he says that there is the concealing version of a vidya is in the form of thought and verbal expression. It's in the form of a particular type of thought and a particular time of speech. It is in the form of a negation. I'm still negating because I can't really accept that there is such a thing because I'm not experiencing it. Negation of what? Negation of the existence due to the fact that I'm not experiencing consciousness, Kutastha, Chaitanya. I'm not experiencing, okay? So what the fine definition of avarana is this one, is this universal avidya, that is there, was always there, but now became conscious and is being expressed in my thoughts and in my words as I start considering such a possibility that there is such a thing as Kutastha Chaitanya and as my true fundamental free nature. A thought of the final definition of avarana is a thought and a word which negates the existence and the experience of something. A thought, your word, I think and I verbalize my negation about the existence of something. And sometimes it's something very obvious, but we negate, in our thoughts and in our words. So this is one version of ignorance, and it's called avarana. The ignorant does not know Kutastha, and his ignorance is avidya. So the one that's fully ignorant and it was never in contact with the possibility of such a thing as of Kutastha, it's someone under the spell of avidya, mula vidya. He does not know of the ignorance. He does not think about ignorance. And he does not talk about his ignorance. It's totally buried in his or her unconscious mind. Only when he goes and asks about that when he gets in contact with the scripture, this ignorance comes to the surface and gets to be thought about, contemplated, and talked about. And then we have avarana manifest. Okay, we have to make a distinction here according to this passage of this teaching between avarana and avidya, okay? And for my surprise, yesterday when I started reading again the text to get a better understanding of this subtle distinction between avarana and vikshepa, I realized that it's presented here in a reversed way as I imagined. I was always imagining that avarana was a fundamental ignorance, okay? That later on would manifest as a vidya operating in the mind of the individual before self-knowledge takes place. But here it's presented on the other way around, okay? So the unconscious ignorance is said to be avidya. And once this ignorance is known, there is such a thing, so and so, and say, oh, I want to know it, okay? And then how I'm going to know it? Perception and experience, or you're going to study and get some sort of academic knowledge about certain things, okay? So just to illustrate that more in the following verse are going to come to help us to understand the nuance of this distinction between avidya, mula vidya, and avarana. And also I hope that is going to clarify as well the difference between avarana and tamoguna, and vikshepa and rajoguna as well. The subtle difference of avarana and pratyaya is explained in detail. So you guys know what is pratyaya. I have been taking some notes. Avarana and pratyaya. Pratyaya is perception or experience. It is direct experience through perception, perceptive experience, okay, through the five senses. So the subtle difference of avarana, okay, and perception, is explained in detail in the following verse. But now we have an objector who comes to help us by raising some question. When we first looked into this, it seemed to be something more difficult to figure out, more subtle, or more hair-splitting analysis. But now it's very simple. The problem is too many Sanskrit words that make things a little confused. Are we all on the same page? Okay. A question is raised by someone who says that you cannot talk about avidya and avarana with regards of consciousness of Kutastha Chaitanya. So now there is someone who's Kutastha avidya, ignorancia of consciousness, and Kutastha avarana, which is ignorance at work, work in progress. I'm still negating, but I'm looking into it because the fundamental, no, it's the other way around. So Kutastha Vidya, which is, I heard about it, but I did not buy into it yet, or Kutastha Avarana, which is, I heard about it and I'm looking into it, but I haven't bought into it because I'm not experienced. So Kutastha Avidya and Kutastha Avarana are illogical contradictions. So what he's saying, the objector is saying, is like, so consciousness, okay, Chaitanya, so in whatsoever form, total ignorance or ignorance at work. I'm trying to make a distinction to call ignorance at work because I'm trying to understand this ignorance because I became aware of this ignorance. So we are talking about Kutastha, which is consciousness manifest in the human mind. Okay, so we have consciousness, and consciousness is the most beautiful symbol of light. And then we say how consciousness and ignorance, which is a symbol of darkness, okay, symbolized by darkness. How can consciousness and darkness and ignorance coexist? It is impossible. He says, Kutastha Avidya, this ignorance, this basic fundamental ignorance, or this ignorance of someone who is aware of its ignorance makes no sense. They are illogical contradictions. Why? Because if there is consciousness, there could never exist ignorance, because consciousness is referred as the light that reveals everything. Okay, and avidya or avarana is something that veil this light of consciousness. But as we know, wherever there is consciousness, there is no possibility of anything veiling it, because consciousness by nature will illumine and reveal whatsoever, even a veil. You understand? Anything should be illumined and revealed by consciousness. Therefore, it appears to be illogical and a contradiction. So the objection is a good reasoning. But anyone who has understood or read Vedanta in a deeper level, can start figuring out where this conversation will lead. You understand? It appears to be a contradiction due to the fact that we are dealing with two orders of the one non-dual reality called Satya. Okay, so one order is Satya, the other one is Mithya. They don't really impact or obstruct or one another. Therefore, yes, so the light of consciousness and ignorance, they do exist. Okay, they coexist. But let's follow the entire logic here. So the reason is for them being in contradiction is that consciousness is in the form of Svayam Prakasha. So consciousness is self-evident. If it is self-evident, it should never be hidden anywhere. Avidya and avarana are in the form of darkness or ignorance, which is of the nature of a prakasha or adakara. A prakasha means, what is a prakasha? I think I forgot to take this one. Avidya Navarana is in the form of darkness or ignorance, which is of the nature of a prakasha or andakara. What, did you check this prakasha? Because I forgot to pull it in here.
Arlindo, it means not shining.
Okay.
And the other one means to make blind.
Yeah. Okay. So ignorance, the reason of this apparent contradiction is the Kutastha, Chaitanya, is in the form of not light. Now it's self-evident. And the video of Varana, ignorance, is in the form of darkness. It's the nature is something that does not reflect, does not shine. Okay, it's opaque or something like that. Kutastha is prakasha rupa. This avidya, okay, consciousness is prakasha. Prakasha then would be shining. Huh? Is of the nature of shining consciousness, the consciousness that shines in the body-mind complex. Yeah, aprakasha and prakasha. So one shines, one reflects, and one is absorbed. The one does not bounce and produce consciousness or sentience. Huh? If a vidya must be located on Kutastha, if a vidya must be located in consciousness, they must be in close proximity. I mean to say, or they must coexist, okay? Avidya, ignorance, and consciousness. Therefore, whenever you talk of the coexistence of consciousness, okay, which shines, and and ignorance that does not shine, how can the light and darkness exist? Okay, so one is self-evident, the other is something dark that lives within consciousness, and in most of the case, it's not revealed by consciousness. How can they exist? They cannot exist because they have opposite attributes. One shines and reveals, and the other simply remains unshining, or remains occult, or hidden, or invisible, unconscious. How can the light and darkness coexist? So basically, it boils down to that. How can light and darkness coexist? When we talk about light and darkness as great reference or analogies to knowledge and ignorance, consciousness and ignorance, we are using analogies. Analogies, they always fall short. And why analogies fall short? All analogies are taken from media, okay? And then you say, okay, so it helps me to understand. But you're going to find contradictions and limits in all analogies, such as this one. How can consciousness and ignorance coexist? Okay, so light and darkness, for example, cannot coexist. And light is a symbol of consciousness, and darkness is a symbol of ignorance. But the physical light and the experience we have of darkness, they are both within media. But when we talk about consciousness and avidya or varana, we are talking about something that exists within satya, and avidya varana within media. So therefore, they can coexist in the same way. The heat and the sun in our dream can coexist with the cold and the darkness in our room in a night of winter. You understand? The sun and the heat and the light in the dream, they exist, they coexist with the darkness and the cold in my bedroom in the night of January, night of winter, okay? So this video, if it has to cover consciousness, it must be located, it must be intrinsic to consciousness, we could say. Such a proximity, so how can, or they must coexist. Therefore, whenever we talk about these things, we are talking about contradiction. So because light and consciousness and darkness cannot coexist, because they have two opposite attributes. Therefore, it is illogical and it's rejected. Okay, consciousness and ignorance cannot coexist. Consciousness is all-knowing, it's all-revealing, and if ignorance would coexist with consciousness, would be removed by consciousness, by its power to illumine and reveal, okay? And then ignorance should be solved right away. Therefore, it cannot coexist. This is the argument Apurvapaksha. So this is the Vedantine who is there presenting its questions for the Swami, to the Guru. Upon Kutastha Chaitanya, which is self-evident, self-luminous, how can there be dark ignorance? This is the question number one. This means that they cannot coexist, blah, blah, blah. And without a video, how can there be concealment of consciousness? Okay, so you need to have a video in order to have ignorance in regards to consciousness. How can there be avarana, which is this other level of ignorance once you are introduced to the notion that you have a certain ignorance? Avarana is another version of a video. So it's speech and thoughts, is going to bring about, convert avarana into a video and avarana. So when I'm not there, how can speech take place? So another analogy, if I'm not there, how can speech take place? Okay, if I talk about this, it means that I am there. I'm there as a conscious person. If I thought about that, it means I am there, and I'm there because I'm a conscious individual. Okay, so that is again to say, so how what is the problem? You are consciousness, but yet you are thinking about this subtle ignorance. Vidyaranya gives his answer now. He says that they coexist. The coexistence is proved by our very experience. When we clearly experience coexistence, how can you deny what we clearly experience? Okay, so now Vidyaranya is saying, so you cannot reject or deny consciousness because your rejection, your thought, and your speech about that proves the existence and the presence of consciousness, okay? So Vidyaranya gives an answer, and he says that the coexistence is proved by our very experience. When we clearly experience coexistence, we cannot deny what we clearly experience. Logic has no right to question something which is evidently experienced. So now the Swami is exalting, the fact of direct experience, and this needs to be understood, because otherwise it's going to appear to be a contradiction, because from a different angle, we hear the scripture saying that Kutastha Chaitanya is not an objective experience, okay? So here again, it's say, how can you deny something that you clearly experience, okay? So logic has no right to question, because it's self-evident and it is experienced at all times. I am a conscious being, and there is no doubt about it. So I am ignorant, and both experience and ignorance coexist, okay? So nobody can deny I am conscious being. So consciousness is in here, but I am aware of my nature being consciousness and not the mind and not the physical body. But I am aware that I am a conscious being. But I'm aware that somehow I reject the notion that this consciousness is my true nature. Okay, so we experience consciousness and we reject consciousness. Therefore, Jesus is a clear evidence of the coexistence between knowledge or consciousness and ignorance, because most people, once this concept, you are consciousness, is brought to one's attention, one experience this coexistence. I am consciousness, but don't tell me that I am that consciousness. I have consciousness, but I am the mind and I am the body. And I insist that I am not consciousness because of what? Because I don't experience. I may accept the fact that I'm a conscious being, but I cannot expect something that I don't experience objectively. The rejection is based on the fact that the experience must be through the five senses, and they don't understand that the experience is what we call a paroksha jnana. It's a direct experience of your conscious existence, reflect in your intellect. I am ignorant of both experience and ignorance, and this ignorance coexists with my conscious existence. How can you question it logically? Logic has no power to question your evident experience of your conscious self. All the varieties of reasoning you are present here is not possible to negate the experience of ignorance. So he's presenting logic, but the logic is falling short to negate, intelligently negate the experience of consciousness, and at the same time my ignorance of consciousness as my true identity. Okay, so your logic that they cannot coexist does not stand, because I'm proving to you, that there is an experience of your conscious existence, and therefore you are denying, it's saying that I do not experience it, therefore I reject its existence. Our own experience of the ignorance and the experience of a runner swallows, meaning destroys the reason that you are present here, Mr. What is his name? Mr. Purvapaksha. Your very experience, not properly observed and examined, has the power to negate your logic, your mistaken logic and reasoning. Therefore, your logic does not hold water. Verse 29, if any one of you wants to bring in some comments or questions or doubts, feel free. Now, on this verse, there is another argument. Vidyaranya gives in answer to Mr. Purvapaksha, says that logic says they cannot coexist. The logic of Mr. Purvapaksha says that consciousness and avidya cannot coexist. But our experience, our anubhava, says that they can coexist. Now there is a dispute here between what? Our experience and our logic. And here we have logic, and logic can be brought about by direct perception and good inference as well. Okay, but here Swamis present self-knowledge or the self-evident existence of consciousness, as a directly experienced by every human being, So my anubhava, which means to say my direct experience of my conscious existence, is destroys your logic, okay? Because the logic of purva paksha, is not really based on experience, okay? It's based on what? Knowledge, consciousness, and ignorance, Basically, there is no real perception, and even inference is not there because it's not based on any direct perception either. It's more like speculation, and speculation due to the fact that Mr. Purvapaksha does not clearly understand the distinction between consciousness and ignorance. Ignorance being a phenomenon happening in mithya, and consciousness as satya. Okay, so that is the basic misunderstanding, and based on this mistaken conclusion, so anything that is built from there is just speculation, does not stand. And then Swami goes about saying, when there is a contradiction between experience and the tarka, I forgot tarka right now. Tarka, did you take note of tarka, Lee? Actually, I looked for tarka and it was not on my dictionary, but okay. Here it means logic, basically. Logic. Huh? Yeah. When there is contradiction between logic and experience, we need to make a decision here. What is superior? Of course, it will depend on the logic. Experience, many times, as we know, is misleading, and needs to be corrected by good logic and good inference. Okay, otherwise we're gonna say, no, I'm 100% sure that the sky is blue because I experience blueness every time I look to the sky. So, and then we have to bring some other inferential knowledge that allows us to bring about good logic and correct the mistaken perceptions through the experience, perceptive experience. Okay, so it's not, we have to see the angle we are talking about here. So which one is superior? There is a contradiction, logic and perceptive experience. So between these two, logic and experience, which is stronger? This is my question. So the Swamis present that to the objector. So, and then he says, Anubhava is pratyaksha. Anubhava is inference. Anubhava is experience. Anubhava is pratyaksha. Pratyaksha means perceptive. Okay, experience is based on direct perception. Okay, that's what he say. Anubhava is gained directly through perception. Okay, he's saying like, so which one is superior? Your logic or Anubhava, which is through the sense organ, the perceptions, you perceive, and then you experience according to your five senses. So Purvapaksha, the objector, is uses anumama. Anumama is a certain inferential knowledge. He's using inference, and we use pratyatska anubhava, direct experience, direct perception through the sense. So I experience consciousness. How you experience consciousness? So because I am consciousness and I can see that I'm a conscious being. So this is direct anubhava, okay? And you get that through the mind, of course. Knowledge comes through the mind, the intellect. And Purvapaksha use only an inferential logic. Anumama logic. Between the two, which one is stronger? It is pratyaksha alone is stronger than this inferential logic. Our logic is that anumana depends upon pratyaksha for its very existence. So now we know that there are fundamental, the most important means of knowledge is perception through the five senses and inference, okay? But you cannot infer without perceptive knowledge, experiential perception knowledge. So meaning to say, so we cannot infer that there is smokiness, there is a cloud of smokiness, and therefore there is some fire. We cannot, unless we have had the direct perceptive experience of fire, properly filed in my mind. So I have perception, and I file that knowledge, and then I can make inference. So I mean to say that inference depends on perception, but perception does not depend on inference. Okay, so which one is stronger? Which one is more important? Yeah. So of course it's direct perception, direct knowledge. Therefore, our experience will dislodge your logic. The second argument is, suppose without data collection, I infer something, and now it's interesting. So for inferring that there is fire somewhere there, I need to have collection of data, data collection. So science is based on a lot of data collection on the direct level, and then on an initial inferential level, and then more subtle inferential knowledge based on those primary inferential understandings. So in that way, we build science. But it begins from what? From data collected by direct perceptive knowledge. The second argument is that without data collection, I infer something, that inference it will be baseless inference. Why? Because it's inference not based on data, on direct data. This is a guesswork or a speculation. So any inference, and we find it so much here where I live, because there are so many new age people, and they bring to the table so many funny, the rare occasions that I meet with them, they make so many concepts that are not based on anything, and then they are just speculation, they are guesswork, that they are fantasies, they are just like, dreaming, and there is no base. The concepts have no logic, which is based on data, it's just fantasies. So your knowledge here, your objection is based on guesswork or speculation. Therefore, it cannot be a valid means of knowledge. A pramana, valid pramana. I have a friend, I have a person here that I got slightly in contact with this person, and then slowly, the person is showing, more or less her mind. And the mind is mostly based on, oh no, I had this vision, or I received this, I received that in my dream, I received that in my silence, I received that reading the tarot cards, and then now, I have seen and I'm sure, So this kind of knowledge is a very shake kind of knowledge, and very gently I'm trying to, without offend this person, to present to her that I don't have much value for this kind of vague and abstract guessing, intuitive knowledge. So all these speculations, are going to make you confused. Will be a guessing game, and there will be so many guessing, speculating ideas, and you will end up confused. That you will not arrive at any conclusion, and there will be no finality. So there is no end, there is no purpose for this guessing game of, we see it so much in the mystical, esoteric realms of people playing, and considering themselves highly spiritual. Okay, so it does not take people anywhere. It's mostly a lot of fantasies. Speculating like that, everybody's going to have their own opinion. They have no data, they have no base, and will not arrive anywhere. But at the time I conclude something, another person will come with another speculation, another opinion, and none of those based on real facts, real data, real direct experience, and good logic and good inference. No opinion will be the final for base. No opinion will be final for the base. For the base is distorted. Nothing. Because the base is distorted or not there at all, my opinion is meaningless, valueless. Any knowledge is a knowledge only when it's based on good logic, on valid data, okay? Direct inferential data in other nice direct sensory data, and some very good based inference based on those direct data that you received within our interact with phenomenal objects or experience. So it needs to be based on good data, good experience. Then how can a person arrive at the fruit if he discards this base data, this experience, and try to hold on to anumama alone, only imaginary inference or hallucinations? You claim yourself to be a very logical person, but you are not being very logical, because real logic or a real logician will not speculate without having a properly based grounds based on data, knowledge. It has to rest on pratyaksha, which is perception and experience. Only logic doubtless. So a firm logic, because sometimes people say, no, I 100%, I have no doubt about my logic. Like this person I was referring to you. I have no doubt about my logic. No, it is a doubtless, certain logic. It has its value, but only so long and as far as it is utilized in such a way that it falls in line with one's experience and with the scriptures. This is very beautiful, okay? So Vedanta has no problem with profound logics, and sometimes it can be very, very subtle and hair-splitting logic. It has its value, but only as long as it is used in such a way that it never contradicts direct experience, and it's fully based on that and the collection of data, and above all, in harmony and falls in line with the scriptures. This is the most important point in here, you understand? Because the scripture knowledge is a knowledge that's not man-made, not woman-made. It did not come from the intellect, human intellect. It was revealed to the human intellect. And then if we want to really explore the world of logic, of philosophy, it must be based on perception, and based on data collection, okay, direct experience, and then good inference as well, based on that, on the direct perception that collect, collection of data, and at the same time, it should be in line with the scriptures when it comes to spirituality, when it comes to, our spiritual philosophy, or spiritual search for the truth, the science of reality, as we say, the science of consciousness. You cannot explore thoughts, logic on those lines without having a good base of first-hand experience, and then you have to be backed up by the scriptures to see if your experience, your interpretations of your experience, and the inference you are drawing from those interpretations, if they are in line with the scriptures, which is the most important point in here. Anything else?
Arlindo, I was looking at this verse and trying to figure out the primacy of experience over logic, and I came across a lovely metaphor for it. Have you heard of that mortar and pestle metaphor for this?
No.
It's really simple. So the mortar is,
what is a mortar? Maybe I know, but I'm not.
Okay, it's a little bowl, and a pestle is like a tool that you use to grind up substance. Yeah. And so in this metaphor, the bowl, the mortar, is the intellect, and experience comes in and is the substance that you put into the bowl. And then the pestle is the logic that you use to grind up or approach that substance and make it available for assimilation.
Yeah.
And so it really depends upon whether the mortar is correct. And this is where you're saying that the scriptural backing up what you're doing with your logic with the scripture is so important. Really helped me clarify. And because when all is said and done, what's important in here is the substance.
Yeah.
That's what's left.
Can you send it to us, and can you repeat the mortar? The mortar refers to
the intellect.
The intellect,
where the experience comes to rest.
Is the content, and then
the pestle, or the tool that you use to break up that experience into digestible pieces, so that it is right knowledge.
Okay.
Yeah.
It could be presented in another way as the ball, the mortar is the mind, and then the mind receives experience, and then the intellect is going to extract knowledge from that experience, by
logic, using right logic.
Yeah, knowledge and logic. Yeah, intellect is going to infer, and then it's going to check this knowledge with the scriptural knowledge. Very nice. If it's easy for you, send it to us on our WhatsApp, please. Okay. So the verse 30. You guys have a few more minutes, or you have to go? Because we start a little later today. The chief function of reasoning is to explain things clearly. The verse 30. The verse 30 is on another document, Claudio, that maybe you don't have it open before you. The chief function, but it is there in our group. The chief function of reasoning is to explain things clearly. One should employ logic following one's own experience and not misuse it. Okay, so we see it a lot. One should employ logic. So the intellect and our reasoning function serves to understand phenomena, to explain things. And we should do it properly, but never deprived of one's experience. Otherwise, we are just float on the realms of philosophy, okay, or mental speculations or discussions. So don't misuse, or in other words, don't abuse of one's intellect and reasoning faculty. Try to explain and to understand phenomena, but don't do that unless it's based on direct experience. And when it comes down to what we do with Vedanta, so don't just go around playing with the words of the Upanishads, okay, never bringing it to your day-to-day experience of life, okay, without ever considering that you're experiencing the self 24/7 and look into the logic, but in a very pragmatic way, practical way, okay? So employ knowledge, exercise your intellect, your reasoning, but always following the experience. Otherwise, you could be abusing and misusing of your reasoning, and you would live in a kind of Pratibhasika Satya, which is not really in connection with the Vyavaharika. You live in a reality which is not really grounded on the physical material phenomenal world, okay? Do you agree, Claudio? Another gem of the verse, this aspect of study is called epistemology, which means the study of knowledge, the theory of knowledge. What is knowledge? What is right knowledge? No? And what is wrong knowledge? And what is reasoning? And what is wrong reasoning? And so on. Now, the same Mr. Purvapaksha says, okay, I agree. I know that the Anubhava is powerful and independent, so perceptive knowledge, direct perception or direct knowledge through the five senses is powerful, and I know it is independent. It does, meaning to say, it does not depend on inference and does not depend on hearsay or something like that. It is the base of Anubhava. It's the base for inferential knowledge. So discarding Anubhava is like Kalida sitting on the branch and cutting the same branch. No? He says Anubhava, which is experience. Sorry, it must make no sense. So this Anubhava is powerful, independent. Okay, it is the base for Anubhava. Perception is the base for experience. If I experience, okay, I experience through perception. And I cannot discard Anubhava or perceptive knowledge, direct knowledge. If I do that, it's like someone in one of these Puranas sitting on the branch of a tree and cutting the branch at the same time to see what's going to happen. I know I should not do that. And I'm willing to respect Anubhava, perceptive, direct knowledge, okay? But there is a but here and there with every objector. But at the same time, I want to use the reasoning in a correct manner, he says. I want the reason to be made in such a way that helps me to assimilate my experience. So, certain experience we will not be able to accept. It is not a rejection of experience, but what I look for is the logical reasoning for acceptance or assimilation of the experience. I got the reasoning. I use my reasoning, my faculty, and not for negating my experience, but to support my experience. So he's being very smart. Therefore, he says, I want to use logic, anubhava, not experience rejecting logic, but assimilating knowledge. So he's being really, really tricky. He says, no, I mean, okay, but my logic is good because it is a logic that is going to help me to assimilate direct knowledge. You understand? So I'm discussing, and because I want that to be supportive, for my assimilation of direct knowledge, my experience. Sometimes logic will be required. Here, the example is that I saw him off, that he left to Delhi yesterday, but today I see him here in Chennai. Now Swamiji is presenting another aspect of this discussion. He says, like, sometimes logic will be required, and this logic is going to appear to be contradictory when I put them on the base of my experience. And then he presents an analogy, an example. He says, my direct experience says one thing, says that my friend jumped into the train and left to Delhi yesterday. And this morning, when I just walk out my house, I see that he's here in Chennai. And he's here because somehow the train stopped in the next station and he decided to come back for some reason. Okay. So in the experience of the coexistence of consciousness and ignorance, I don't question my experience, but my intellect is not able to accept this experience because of this apparent contradiction. So he says, the guy took off, and in my mind, I said, he's in Delhi tomorrow morning. And then the next morning, he was back in Chennai, and it appeared to be a contradiction, okay? But the contradiction is there because my intellect did not consider other data, other aspects of my experience. So I cannot question my experience and say, no, my friend is not here because my knowledge yesterday is that he took off to Chennai. Yeah? No, I'm going to put my experience above my knowledge, extract by the experience that I took him. I took him off to the train. You understand? So I don't question my experience, but my intellect is not able to accept the fact that he is here because of my experience of taking him there. So when we bring that to the consciousness, we are Kutastha Chaitanya. We have this difficulty to accept the coexistence between my consciousness and ignorance. Okay. Because I don't consider that consciousness is always there, always illuminating, always evident. But somehow, within Mithya, there is a phenomenon that somehow veils this consciousness in my intellect. So I experience it. The first step is to accept, like James likes to say. So, do you exist? Yes. Are you a conscious being? Yes. So can you then claim yourself to be conscious existence rather than the body-mind? And then the person, oh, not really, because for that, I need first to experience directly this conscious existence. And then I have to accept the fact that I am that, and I will need to do some investigation with the help of the scriptures. So I don't question my experience, but my intellect is not able to accept that I am consciousness because of these two opposed natures playing within myself. My limited nature as body-mind and my unlimited nature, as said by the scripture, as consciousness. Appears that there are two opposite natures, you understand? And that's why we need to dig into the studies of the Upanishads and the scriptures with the help of our gurus until we can resolve these apparent opposite natures that apparently contradict one another. You understand? My inferior nature and my superior nature, they are not opposed to one another, okay? The same way that the guy who took off to Chennai and the guy I found in Chennai, they are not with their position with one another. It's just that one was, a projection on myself. He took off to go, and the other is the direct experience that, I see him now through my sense organs. One was an inference that he's in the train is moving, and then he's going to be next morning in Chennai. And the other is the direct experience. So this experience and this inference, they are not in contradiction the moment that I understand other data, other facts within my apparently opposed experience. Okay, so let me go on here. The knowledge, it's very short. The knowledge of Svaprakasha and ignorance, cannot. What is Svapraksha? Svapraksha, Rachyaska. The knowledge of Svapraksha and ignorance cannot go together. It's the knowledge of consciousness and the ignorance cannot go together. Here I have difficulty in swallowing that consciousness and ignorance go together, being opposed to one another. If you argue like that, Vidyaranya is happy. He does not take the Anubhava based on logic. So Vidyaranya says, if that is your approach, so if you argue like that, Vidyaranya will just say that the Anubhava based, that your Anubhava, which is experience, Anubhava based on logic. Okay, let's leave it for Thursday, and then I'm going to clarify this passage here, conclude this verse 30, and move on the next verse. Anything from you, Lynn? Okay. Good to see you back, Claudio. Next Thursday, we carry on. Ishvara willing. Om Purnamada Purnamidam Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnamevavashishate. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Namaste. Thank you, my friends. We meet again soon. Much love.
Thank you.
Thank you, Alinda.
Thank you.
Bye now.
Thank you.